my topic is going to be something that I think a lot of us will find ourselves on either one side or the other of this conversation. And so today I'm talking about how everyone wants to be how everyone wants to be understood, but not many people want to admit that maybe they misheard. And this hits really deeply home for me. And so I'll be sharing some of my personal testimony and stories. And so I just want to invite everybody to move from reactivity to responsibility to defensiveness to connection. Let's remember that when we're in relationship with people and we have these conversations, that it's always most important for connection. And the way that we do that oftentimes is taking responsibility for our side of the conversation or our side of the situation. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we all want to be misunderstood. We crave connection. I mean, I crave connection. I'm sure that you do. You probably also crave empathy. You want people to understand what you're feeling and step beside you. And you want to be validated. You want to know that what you are saying or doing is valid. Like we require that. God created us to be in relationship. And so often, because we're not aware of the heart and the things that are in the heart, we push people away or we create division when really, when we clear the things out of us that are creating these mishaps with other people, we're able to truly be present and truly see people for who they are and be seen. I mean, so many of us are afraid to be seen. So when I'm talking about everybody wants to be understood, but nobody wants to admit they misheard, oftentimes when there's a conversation and maybe in that moment, some word or maybe even the way that they said it hit you in a way that caused you to immediately take notice of it. Maybe you even get defensive because of, somebody's tone. Like when, someone, maybe even your spouse or your significant other or a child says something simple and your body immediately reacts before your brain can catch up. It's like, oh, that hit me. And immediately there's like this defensiveness that comes. It's not about blame. So remember, as I'm talking, this is not about like somebody did something wrong and somebody else did something right. Like it's not about blame. It's really about awareness. It's about when we can take responsibility for what filter we're hearing through, we create space for understanding. Here's the deal. When we hear something, it has to go through all of these different filters that we've created before it really hits us into the internal part of us. And so when that happens, what we do is we hear it through these lenses that we have, these filters. We don't always hear the message that was given. So we don't hear with our ears. We oftentimes hear with our hearts. And that's not a bad thing if we have the filters cleaned and we're able to hear in the space that or the intention that it was set in. So our nervous system and emotional state shape perception. And so when we're tired or when we're anxious or already feeling unseen, maybe there's an insecurity or there's, whatever, even neutral comments can sound sharp. And, I remember, in my relationship with my husband, there's been many times where one of us had said something and the other one has taken it as something unintended. So, for an example, one time Jimmy said, "Are you going to wear that?" And instantly my mind went to, he thinks I look bad. Like he's like telling me that I should take this off and put something else on. And that insecurity started creeping up. Like he doesn't like me as I am. But what actually he was meaning to say was, it might be cold outside. And so my heart thought through the lens of insecurity. And so oftentimes we do that. Oftentimes we hear something and it hits some kind of lie that we've believed about ourselves. And so we then internalize that that person has said something negative about us, when in fact, they didn't say anything negative about you. They were just giving you a simple message, right? A simple comment or a simple thing. And we in turn have filtered it through that lens of, I'm not good enough or I'm not valuable. And so, filters from past pain is a big one. I mean, a lot of us have had other relationships. Maybe it's been with our parents, our caregivers, or it could have been with a friend, through grade school or high school, or even it could have been, romantic relationships in adulthood, even. And so we pick up things through our pain. We also have unmet needs. A lot of us don't know how to share the things that we need. And so they're just sitting there unmet. We're just hoping and praying, please, somebody hear these needs that I have, even though I'm not communicating them. We oftentimes have these unmet needs, and some of them are realistic and some of them are unrealistic, depending on if we've even talked through it. And then, of course, there's childhood patterns. So when you were growing up, there were ways that you engaged with your family of origin. It could have been your siblings, grandparents, parents. And so those things that we walk through, in life, then they create filters within us. And so if you grew up having to defend yourself, maybe you always felt like you were never understood. And so that's kind of a filter that you're always on guard. Like, I'm not going to be understood. So I'm going to jump back at them when I feel like I haven't been understood or attuned to. And so let's talk about tone versus trigger. Hey, I know, and it's common in my home to say that I speak with the tone. And then I may, like, I will say that that might be the case. My intention, however, is not that. And so sometimes when we think we're reacting to someone's tone, but we're really reacting to our own wound. And I'm not going to say it's always that, but it's really good to know that it could be that you're hearing it through the lens of pain, the lens of a childhood, like your childhood patterns, or an unmet need. And so sometimes we do hear a tone and it's actually something that we're reacting to from our own wound. It's just a good thing to think about. So how do we differentiate, there you go, between tone that's actually unkind and tone that hits your trigger? Because that can be almost impossible. Like if we have a filter that is, I'm unimportant, or they're not understanding me, or they're not valuing me, then oftentimes what'll happen is that trigger response, but we hear it as the tone. So a trigger response could be, why are you talking to me like that? Now, I don't know about you, but anybody that says that to me, it kind of sounds like fighting. It's not a connection, right? So what's another way that we could say that? We can feel that way. Why are they talking? Why are they talking to me like that? And instead of saying that out loud, maybe we then take some time and reframe that. And even if they were talking to us like that, what if we said instead, I noticed that tone felt sharp to me. Can we pause so I can check what I'm feeling? Or you could even say, I noticed that tone felt sharp to me. Is that what you intended? So you're taking responsibility for your feelings yourself, but also not negating the fact that maybe that tone was sharp. And so you're inviting conversation instead of assumptions. So tie it to your, like, this is when you tie it to like responsibility, this is why you then have a different view. You begin to have an objective view. So this is why we teach women specifically, but we also have a lot of men that go through our program and our coaching program to slow down and connect with your heart before reacting. This is one of the biggest tools we teach in the Stress Less, Live More program, is how to really connect with yourself, your heart, before you just blah, whatever it is. The heart holds truth, not the trigger. So the trigger is coming from a place within, deep within, but it's attached to a lie. It's attached to something that you don't have, like lack. And instead of attaching, like working what am I trying to say? Instead of reacting through the trigger, what if we took time to really connect it with our heart that holds truth and we're able to really engage with, that person on a more heart connection level? So, I am love like when scripture speaks truth to everyday life. And James 1:19 in the Passion says, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to take offense. I can remember a pastor I had one time that really just brought this thought to me about becoming unoffendable. And it's really been something that I've worked on becoming. Now, of course, I'm not there. There are still things that trigger me and still things that, offend me in that moment. But what I've learned to do is to not get suck up in like going away, like letting it just take me on this cloud, take me on this journey. So when I feel that trigger or that offense, what I tend to do is to turn to curiosity. What about that thing that they did or thing that they said hurts me so bad, or angers me so bad, or frustrates me? Whatever the emotion is you're able to turn it to where you're taking responsibility for that offense. Because that person, even if they meant to offend me, I am giving them so much power by letting them be the reason I'm offended. So I've decided to turn that curiosity and defensive and not be defensive. So how does curiosity build connection? It's really one of the greatest things about curiosity is that it draws you to something. Because when you're curious about someone, even as a life coach, one of the best techniques and things that you use in life coaching is being curious and asking questions and really getting them to explain things about how they think, feel, and act. And so you can simply, say something like, what did you mean by that? And that's one of the other tools that's really cool whenever someone's trying to like embarrass you or offend you in public in front of a group of people. You can simply push it back on them and have them say it again. Like, can you repeat that? Because I'm not sure I heard you the first time. Or what did you mean by that? So that, so that you can really get them to say what it is that they're trying to say, or help me understand instead of you always make me feel. So it's really taking ownership and using those me, I statements instead of you statements. Those are always going to be really big to help you not only keep the connection, but truly understand what is said there. Because the truth is, usually these, disruptions happen with people that you're closest to. And they're not people that you want to have strife with. They're people that you really want to connect with. So when you're grounded in your body, you can always pause before assuming. Now, sometimes it's really hard to be grounded in your body when all of a sudden that flush, that feeling comes up and anger hits you and you are just raring to, be defensive. I get that. But practicing grounding regularly, like when you're not in a high emotional state, will help you get back into that like calmness, connection to your body when you are feeling that rush of emotion, because you can simply close your eyes and you can remember that state of being grounded. So on my Instagram, my personal Instagram, I am constantly grounding and practicing that and helping my body understand what peace and calm feels like so that I can remember it whenever there is this rush of emotion so I can get back to me. And so that's just a little hack that I'll give you right there. Another thing is, to bring your heart into a place of connection. You can connect with the God inside of you. You can ask God, what part of me is reacting right now? So you can begin to engage the source that's within. And that is so helpful because if you will ask that question and pause, you're going to get an answer. You may think it's you, and that's okay. You can think it's you, but you're going to get an answer. And then you can ask, is this about the present moment or an old wound being poked? And you will almost immediately know the truth in that situation. You will almost immediately be able to access wow, this is not about right now. This is about another thing. And you'll feel that emotion because it's familiar. It's something that you have taught yourself to really to be offended about. That was a way to protect yourself. Like when you felt that, as a young child or a younger person, you would run away from the situation. It was a way for you to protect yourself. So when we are able to really reframe it from misheard to understood, we change so much within ourselves and so much within our relationships. A quote I love is, you can't control how others speak, but you can take responsibility for how you hear. And that is so powerful. It's like becoming that unoffendable. And when we have this mindset where we are no longer the victim and we're more of the victor, then we change the perception that we're looking through. And it's amazing how almost everything in our life changes. So, um, just thinking about, like, to just kind of tie this up in a pretty bow, it's no longer about fixing the other person. It's about healing the words touched in me. So when we take a pause and we allow ourselves to be in the body and to not let the other person control us, or even to try to control the other person, then we actually step into this place of maturity, this place of expert, even. And that's freedom, that's love in action. That's you, having the bigger heart, the bigger brain in the situation, and leading the other person, even if they meant harm to you, to a place of connection. I know so many people and that have come through our coaching program and that I've just met in life that have similar backgrounds that I do. I can just feel it, where you have felt unloved. You have felt like not valuable. Like you have always had to, change who you are for other people. And you've become a chameleon. You've become the person that shows up in everyday life, and whatever anybody else needs, you show up as that. And I know that that is a very lonely place to be in. We lie to ourselves and say, I have all of these relationships, but truth is nobody truly knows you. You may know everybody else, and you may have, um, you know, all the tools for everybody, but at the end of the day, you're sitting by yourself alone. Nobody truly knows you because you don't feel safe to let them in. And so this is a really great way to begin to let yourself be seen, and let yourself be valuable. Like, value yourself by turning it around and taking responsibility for the places within you that are getting triggered. So when I started doing the heart work that we do today, I stopped needing everyone to speak perfectly. Like, everybody got to be themselves. They got to show up as whoever they were. And I didn't need them to make me feel good or to say it in a way that made me feel all right, because I began hearing through peace instead of pain. That pain trigger was such a hard one. And I may not have like spoke up about how I felt, but I would put them in a different place in my life because I would see them as somebody who didn't understand me or didn't value me. And so I just want to take all of us through just a little heart reflection. These talks are no good unless we actually do an activation that helps you even feel your heart for yourself. So I want you to close your eyes if you can. If you're driving, of course, keep your eyes open. But if you're listening and you're at a place where you can close your eyes, do that. And if you're not, hey, come back to this. This is going to be on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook channel. So you can come back and see this at any time. So close your eyes for a second. And let's think of a recent conversation that left you feeling misunderstood. Just give it a moment. Don't try, just let it surface. And once you feel that, most of us can remember one pretty quickly. I want you to ask, what did I hear through? What was the filter that came through? Was it fear? Maybe shame? Exhaustion? That's a big one. Or was it love? And we're going to ask the God of your understanding, whomever that is, however you engage with the creator of the world, and just ask God to show you where you've been quick to defend yourself instead of understand. And when you see that, I don't want you to beat yourself up. I don't want you to feel bad about it. I just want you to be an observer. I want you to see where it came from. Because when we begin to understand our reactions, then we can begin to do the thing that you're going to also ask God for. And that's to help you hear through love again. Help you to be raised up, elevated, to see through that objective view, that objective lens where you can see the whole picture. And that's something that you can actually just speak out loud, declare every day. I will see through love again. Understanding starts with you. So when you take ownership of how you hear, you open the door for others to be known and for your heart to rest in peace. And that's a really cool thing.